for July 19th, 2023. All right, straight off the bat, do we have any conflicts with any of the items on the agenda?
No. No.
None stated, thank you. Next item would be the approval of the minutes from the June 2021 meeting. Any comments, changes required on the minutes?
Did you notice anything?
No. I did not.
Okay.
Anybody else? No? No? I'd consider a motion in that regard. I thought they were well done this time. Well, again.
They're always, yes, always well done. No errors. I make a motion that we approve the minutes from June 21st.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor of approval of the minutes from June 21st?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Oh, it can't be. Okay, the motion carries. The minutes are approved. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is a discussion of tiny homes. So I was asked by the city manager to get this topic moving in planning and zoning, with an eye on making some sort of a recommendation to the city council as to how to treat tiny homes in Parowan. So that said, we don't have quite a lot of code that, I mean, the word tiny home is probably not even in our Parowan
It's not.
city code.
It isn't.
No.
As such. There are, however, codes that apply to tiny homes because they're not necessarily RVs and that sort of a thing, so.
So I have a question. Didn't this already go to city council like a while ago?
Not since I've lived here.
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
We had a discussion once.
Oh, it was on storage containers, just.
Yeah, not the
Sorry.
tiny homes,
Yep, it
there
on
was
storage
about,
containers.
right.
My bad,
building
sorry.
out of the,
We try not to have people live in those.
Yeah.
I think maybe Jamie, what you're thinking of is when they're talking about those cargo,
Yeah,
those.
yep. That's exactly what I was.
What's the term, everybody,
Shipping container?
Yeah.
Connex
boxes,
boxes,
yeah, shipping containers.
and having them as a
Mhm.
building material.
Yeah, but it wasn't on tiny.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, I was just wrong.
Yeah. So that said, what I'd like to do is just go through and have a just open discussion about concerns, concepts, things that might need to change to permit tiny homes if we were to head in that direction, and maybe the pros and cons of that. And we'll capture that in the minutes, and then we'll have a similar discussion again, and we have the bigger part of the commission here. But this will get us rolling, you know, things. And so Heather, I'll just ask you straight out, do you have anything you wanna throw in or present or
Present,
introduce?
no, but discuss, yes.
Okay.
Here we go. So, I had previously, which, I'm sure people don't have it with them, but I may have just enough copies to hand out if you guys,
I might have it, what are you gonna give us?
well, just the stuff I had, given out before with regards, things I had printed off, definitions on what a mobile home is versus an RV versus a tiny house on wheels, that kind of thing, but.
So is this the Heber City definition?
Heber's definitions, UDOT's, the Department of Transportation, the state's definitions, and, yeah. But what I would like to say, and the way that I view tiny homes, is that it is a quick and more affordable way to provide affordable housing. So, you know, when people think of, you know, I know it's in our master plan, our general plan, that one of our focuses needs to be on affordable housing. And just again, to define, affordable housing is 30% of your income goes to housing. So, yeah, just want to reiterate that again.
Is that, and whose definition is that?
National definition, HUD probably,
Okay.
yeah. So, when you think of, per se, housing projects, where they're funded and, grants are given, you're obviously having to go through a process, you're gonna have to get a builder. That is not something that could happen within a few months. Whereas with tiny homes, and the other aspect with tiny homes on wheels is that, I know one of the aspects that the legislation is going to be looking at is just like they have written code, for internal accessory dwelling units. They're going to be working on code for external. And if you just have a mother-in-law suite, granny cottage, whatever you want to call it, something that's like 300 square feet, that a homeowner can build in their backyard, that full expense goes on the homeowner. Whereas if you permit tiny homes on wheels as an accessory dwelling unit, and again, you would have to have the definition so that somebody's not coming in with an RV, that it is a tiny house on wheels that passes certification, that expense is minimal on the homeowner because they would be putting in a slab electrical sewer hookup. So that reduces their cost, and then the individual, the tenant, has their investment in their tiny home that they can then move in. You can write codes as to it has to be cladded, it has to, you know, you can stipulate all those things so it doesn't look like they can just pull up and drive off, you know, the next day. That it looks like a permanent structure, but it's not. And if something...
I'm sorry, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
For just a second? So when you talk about we can specify cladding and various different aspects of construction of something like a tiny home, there's really state code that says we can't specify those things. So you have to have them in a
Cladding,
category.
cladding meaning just skirting. Maybe skirting is the word, I don't know if that's what, where it looks like it's a permanent structure, not, you're not gonna see the wheels, you know, you have, maybe cladding was the wrong word, the skirting on the bottom, yeah. And then, of course, if something comes up with that person and they want to move, they have a job opportunity, whatever, they actually can move their home. And then you can have another renter. Another aspect would be, which is what I want to do, get a tiny house. I live in my tiny house, and I rent my house. So basically, either way, just like the state's indicating, whether it's internal or external ADUs, accessory dwelling units, the primary homeowner has to live in one of the two units, okay? So, that's one aspect, and in my opinion, is a quicker and more accessible to get to affordable housing now. Then you can also talk about, well, if you don't want to do that, do you permit tiny home villages? Where do you want to permit those?
So the homeowner, what we're really talking about, so there's no confusion, is the property owner with the primary.
Is your mic on? Someone just told me they can't hear you.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the homeowner is really the property owner that is the primary resident, not the homeowner of a ADU.
But the homeowner could choose to live in one of the two units, yeah.
Right, but, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's, several options. That's why, for me, that's why my focus is so on that, is because it's not necessarily reliant on an organization, or, if somebody, has a kid that's just graduated and or just coming back from college or whatever, and apartment renting, all those different aspects are very expensive and can be. So that's why it just, to me, seems like and there's cities, if people are nervous about it, there have been cities that have limited and done, like, the first year, we permit 10 permits.
10 permits for an ADU?
An ADU,
Okay.
and if they're nervous and like, well, how is this gonna affect the town? How is, NIMBY, everybody all upset, not in my backyard, and then they see, oh, okay, this is a good thing or it's a bad thing, then it's not an explosion, which I don't think an explosion would happen, but it would maybe make people feel a little bit more comfortable.
So can I just
Yeah.
my concerns on what she
yes.
just said?
Yeah.
So, first of all, I would think that we would need to have like a limit of a number of how many can be on a property or
Oh, no, it
whatever.
would have to be,
Absolutely.
it's only one.
Yeah.
I think that's already,
Well, what if somebody has 20 acres and they're like, I wanna do X amount of tiny homes or whatever?
I would think that that would be more of, fall under tiny home village, and we'd have to have code for
Yeah, or
that.
something like that.
Yeah.
So that, I don't necessarily like the idea of them being able to be on wheels and to come and go as they please. I would much
No,
rather,
no, no.
I would much rather have them be like on a permanent foundation, they're set, you can't move them. Just because I feel like if they're on wheels, you're gonna have people coming and going, and you might get more of like nomad crowds and.
When you
I
mean,
like affect the neighbors.
can I just clarify what you mean by them as people coming and going,
Yeah,
or the
tiny
actual
homes. Like, if
tiny
they're
home
picking up and
going?
leaving, you know what I mean? Like, how often are they gonna be picking up and leaving? Is this like a short-term place for you know what I mean? Like short-term, long-term, kind of those effects. So I would much rather them be like on a permanent foundation. They're permanent, they're on that house, that's where they're at.
Well, Heather, aren't you describing these as, you say they're on wheels, it's almost like a mobile home or
Yeah.
like an RV, because the
Yeah.
individual that's living in them, it owns those. It isn't the property owner per se.
Correct.
They're providing like a hookup.
Correct,
Yeah.
and they would be charged rent by the homeowner, so it'd be
it's more like
income for the
a RV
homeowner.
park filling with hookup fees, is
Yeah.
kind of the thought, instead of the actual true tiny home where it's permanent.
Here, this is what they look like.
Oh, I've
Oh,
looked
okay.
at them. I went through and went through all.
I didn't know if I had a picture.
No, I know exactly what they are, but,
So,
I mean, 'cause in aspect, if they had wheels, they could go to RV, the RV park.
but they can only stay there for 14 days.
Yeah,
But that's not what I'm referring to, is not a rental spot that somebody comes
20
for a
nights.
month, or you're talking about living there for potentially years.
yeah, so like, that's what I'm saying, is there
But then-
they'd have to stay there for a month or whatever, so they're just not coming and going and stuff.
Okay.
I don't really like the wheels aspect of it because of that.
And the only reason why I like the wheels is because then it doesn't put the burden and expense solely on the homeowner
Mhm.
to construct that living unit. That's the,
Mhm.
where I feel the benefit of wheels. Because you're not gonna have somebody come knock on your door and say, hey, can I build a 300 square foot unit in your backyard and live in it?
No, but if you do build it, you're getting equity in your house, you're getting a consistent income, you're not having it come and go. It's permanent, it's there. It's actually a bonus, an added feature. So,
basically a rental.
yeah, it's just having like another rental in your house, another source of income, so.
So, just out of curiosity, what would the views be on, there was a mention that the property owner, homeowner, lives in one of the units. What if the property owner actually lives in the primary home, and they take off for 3 or 4 months a year. How would we treat that?
How would you treat it if it's internal?
Well, it's not internal, but
I mean, I view it the same as to whether they're
Well-
living in the property or,
well, I guess that's what I'm asking.
yeah.
There's the living in the property, and then there's the coming and going at the property.
Mhm.
And you go, how do you treat that? You say it's okay 'cause it's your primary residence and you're the
Mhm.
homeowner?
I would.
And so if they rent it out, they decide they're gonna be gone for 6 months and they wanna rent the property out, then what do we do?
Do they have separate meters, or are you just
Yeah.
gonna meter?
We can stipulate that.
You're right.
So there's a point. So
Mhm.
right now, if you wanted to put another, an ADU or a second home on a property that is zoned to accept such, you would have to bring additional water
Yeah.
rights
You would have to.
to do that. And
Out of curiosity, 'cause I don't know, is there any kind of, square footage, like, once it reaches a certain threshold, you have to have additional water rights? I don't know.
no, actually, it's,
So even if you,
if it's a residence,
200,
it's
Mhm.
an equivalent.
300 square feet?
ERC, so it's called an
Yeah.
equivalent residential connection, I think.
But right now, you have a resident you have to have a 1/4 acre, basically. You're restricted on the size as far as the water and the unit. I mean, as far as having, you can't put more than one house on a smaller parcel of property, you've got, it's 10,000, whatever, it's just a little under a 1/4 acre, and that's under ordinance right now, that you have to have, that much property in order to have a dwelling, and that ties to the water, and, yeah, so this would cause a lot of, different, infrastructure concerns and things.
So, we're kinda headed in a good direction, I think we need to move forward on this, or in any direction. We need to just put all the issues on the table, which I think we're doing a pretty decent job of doing, and I don't know that we have to solve those or answer all those, but the concerns and the important points, capture those, I think is a good thing, so.
Would, just out of curiosity, and something to consider too, what if the unit has rain catchment and composting toilet? That would then require no water from the city.
Can we catch water right now legally in Parowan? I think it's written in the ordinance that we can't
The
catch
state,
part of the water. Yeah.
Okay.
the state engineer, Division of Water Rights, does not allow you to,
Yeah, that's.
Do any water catchment?
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
thought.
yeah.
I mean, I definitely think we could benefit from tiny homes, it's just how can we get them here and use them efficiently?
So then I would guess that the option, from what everyone's saying, that would be the best direction to look at would be a village, which unfortunately is going to require a developer, which means that it could happen or it could not.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know that we've reached a conclusion
Yeah.
that we can't do this, I think.
Well, I mean, with the way like what Dave was just pointing out, was with the way ordinances are written now, unless we change them, we're gonna run into the conflict of the minimum, the lot size minimum, allowing only one. So then that would either have to be, code would have to be changed to be that is the minimum, and you can have up to one ADU and maybe a certain square footage or percentage of what the, main house is. I know they're written both ways.
And water.
And then,
I think water's the biggest problem.
Mhm.
I struggle with that, which I know all laws and all that say that, but you're typically talking about one or two people living in such a small square footage that the amount of water that they use and consume, they're not gonna have another additional lawn that's gonna need to be watered. It's a minimal
Yeah.
effect. So I don't know, I would hope that there would be a minimal water right that could be brought. I don't know what that, how that equates.
Yeah, that, I think it's something that we need to think about, and we need to figure out what a solution might be in that case. Right now, I'm fairly certain that the city code, definitely, and state code for that matter, it's an equivalent residential connection. And they don't really talk about, you know, do you have a yard or you're not. If I take my grass out, you know, they don't tell me I can build another home back there and not have to bring any water. I mean, it's calculated based on people using.
And the state does use a way of calculating the amount of water, not just by acre feet. It's, what is that,
ERC?
Yeah, ERC.
Yeah.
So, there might be some things that can be, you know, evaluated that, I don't know. I guess there's options, I mean.
Yeah, it would be a discussion
Yeah.
with the water board and
Mhm.
those kind of folks to figure out, so what do you do and what do we think? And it would probably be a call back to the state, you know, how are they treating these? You know, how does Heber City treat them when they do
Heber's
that?
code, I believe right now, is that they are permitted in a tiny home village.
Mm.
Okay,
I believe is how their code is written right now.
right, but I guess I'm speaking really
They do have-
more specifically to how they are treating water
Oh, sorry.
for that.
I was gonna say, they do have ADU code.
And I think you'd have concern as far as the sewer, you know, that would be something, I mean, having it self-contained, that's like a trailer, you know, an RV or something, and so,
Well,
I
yeah.
think I think you've got to really be careful.
Well, I think you're right, and I think definitions, are important. And, you know, a tiny home on wheels, somebody's already said that this evening, look a lot like an RV. We can call them whatever we want, but, you know, they look a lot like what we typically call an RV. And so, that can be problematic, because RVs are required right now to be in an RV park.
Right.
And so as soon as we start putting pads on lots and claiming you can put a tiny home there, now we have to explain to the citizens that have RVs why they can't do the same thing, and you're gonna walk this tightrope line about the difference between this thing on wheels and this other thing on wheels.
Yeah.
And it's gonna boil down to some kind of a tag or a certification, I imagine, at some point.
Currently they fall under the same certification, but the biggest difference in them is that tiny homes on wheels are stick-built, and they're built like homes.
Uh-huh.
So, that's, and have windows like a home.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it's got the you know what I mean,
Right, and you would argue purpose of a tiny home on wheels is mobility, which is one of the primary components of the definition of an RV.
So you say that Heber City has approved this in a village?
yes,
So
not in an RV park,
Okay,
in a village.
how successful are they? Have you
Huge.
any statistics as far as?
I know there's one, builder that I have been following in, Newport, Tennessee, and he has 160 acres that he had purchased, and he started out just building. And then people were having a problem finding a location. So his first, on his property, his first village that he produced was, the beaches. And now he has the beaches, the forest, he's opening up the mountain now. And they have hundreds of these in each of their villages.
How much area do they utilize with, in a village? How much?
I think it can vary. I know some villages that are in Florida and Texas, they have, pretty large, home spaces. Could you look up something and put it on our screen?
So, I mean, they don't go up to a quarter acre like a
No,
single valley,
No.
single residential, home.
no.
And
They
Parowan.
have, there are some villages that are probably similar to foothills. There are other villages that have like full-on yard space, garden space, or in good like spacing in between, some with apartments.
So they can have,
Acony, A-C-O-N-Y was the one I was thinking of, that's Acony, A-C-O-N-Y, Acony Bell.
so what you're saying, according to a person's
Oh, why don't I have a screen?
desire.
Did I hit the button?
Yeah, you probably just turn it
When I was
on, I
cut.
think. Where are you? But what I'm saying is, so they can choose,
That live at Acony Bell in the middle, that would kind of show what that one is like. This is,
if they wanna maintain a yard or, a garden or not.
or they have like a community garden. Like at the Acony Bell, they have where if you want to participate, I don't know why I don't have a screen.
Judy, where's the on-off on these
It looks
screens?
like and her button is yellow and mine's blue.
Yeah, my screen's not, how do you, I mean,
You can move over here.
it's on the side? Got it.
There you go.
So, like this Acony Village, they have got space around where they can add a deck. They can add a deck onto the property, because a lot of times with tiny homes, people obviously like to have outdoor living space. They have a community fire pit. They have decided to do community chickens, and everyone who wants to participate signs up, and they have one day that they have to go and feed and clean, but then they get to participate and get the eggs. Community, garden.
And really, if there was a village, it would just be up to the developer what they wanted to create.
Correct.
With that.
Yep. So it could be something where they are just smack dab right on top of each other, or it could be, something that's a little bit more spacious. There's another one, I can think of other ones as well, but this was one that I had thought, were you gonna ask a question?
I was gonna ask, in this one in particular, and I'm not saying that's what we would do, in this one in particular, it looks like the homes themselves are individually owned.
Oh, yes, and they pay rent,
Provides,
yeah.
I just know from a legal standpoint that, evictions in mobile home parks, things of this nature, are just really more complicated, more troublesome and problematic than a standard, residential eviction. So, as I look at that, it always causes my first panic is that, what do you do when people stop paying, or even if it's parked on your property, now you're strapped with somebody's tiny home.
Well, I think you would have to do it like you do Foothills. We would have one master meter, and then they would take care of it in a...
I'm talking about just in terms of like space rent.
Oh, space rent, yeah, that.
So they don't own the property, they still.
They pay
land.
rent on the land.
When it comes time to eviction and lockout, you're locking somebody out of their home that they own.
'Cause like in Foothills, they own each one of those lots and dwellings.
Right.
At Foothills, right?
Which,
That could, I don't know if that would alleviate that issue, if it was to be handled and operated like Foothills, where you have to purchase, your lot and put your home on it.
Well, I would, so just so we're all on the same page, so in Parowan, Foothills is a planned unit development. And I'm stepping pretty far out because I'm not sure, but I presume you could have a planned unit development and build it for tiny homes. I mean, that would be one avenue to approach that.
Is
If
that
it
gonna
allows
make
for the
them,
density, that would be,
but is that gonna make them expensive, like Heather's trying to make some of them that
well,
inexpensive, you know, so.
yeah, and we really would need to do some hard looking at options, because from my perspective, the tiny homes are not the only answer to affordable housing.
Oh, no, not at all.
They are an option, and they can be part of a solution, but they are not the one
No.
only solution. And so we keep that in mind as we go forward, but, so what it boils down to is at some point, a developer, some developer that says, I have this piece of land, I'm interested in doing a tiny home sort of a development, and what hoops do we need to jump through to make that happen? And, where is it gonna go?
I can let the commission know that in my month of being here, I've fielded approximately 5, requests for tiny homes, whether that's on a vacant lot or as an ADU on an existing lot. So it is an issue that the city needs to.
Yeah, and before your time, before Dan, I was experiencing the same sort of a thing. There was, this time of year, it's like people drive through town and see a for sale sign on a lot, and then you call the city right away and wanna know if they can put a
Well, in
tiny
real
home
estate,
on
we
it.
get that's a really common question too, of tiny homes. It's really popular. It's like the rave right now.
Yeah, the demand is there, and
Can't get it to work, huh?
You can't.
these are up if you wanna shift
Yeah,
seats.
come over.
Oh, no, I keep looking.
Oh, okay.
I mean, trust me, I know what a Coney Bell looks like.
Okay. Yeah. So as we go through this, if anybody else got any, I'll just say, I'm not real excited about tiny homes on wheels as, an ADU on a slab in a lot. I think it's fraught with problems. I agree that it's an inexpensive solution. I haven't thought about it enough to figure out who's making out and who's paying what. I've often wondered what you do when you get an AD, well, I guess we're not doing that. I was gonna go down the space, what do you do when you get an ADU and you say you're gonna rent it to your grandma, to your son, to your aunt, or to your uncle, or some other relative, and all that works, and then 5 years later, you sell your primary residence. Yet, in that ADU, some relative is still living there, your son or your daughter. So, how do you deal? Do you evict them and say?
I think it deals with just like you would have real estate with a house, if there's a renter in it. There's strict rules and regulations about renters and contracts and what's involved with that. So
you can terminate the rental
Yeah.
agreement and
Yep.
say, move your
Yeah.
tiny home.
Yep.
If it's on wheels.
Oh, if it's on wheels, there you go. That's where it.
Cause if it's an ADU.
Yeah, if it's
And it's on a
okay.
foundation, you've got a different, you
Mhm.
can't move it, so you're basically
Okay.
doing something. And does that mean that, well, I guess that means that the owner of the primary residence or the lot is the owner of the ADU?
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
Well,
if it's.
it almost have to be.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have, I don't.
Well, yeah, if it's a permanent
If it's a
structure, it would be
Well, no,
owned
if
by.
it's on wheels though, and you have Yeah, I can understand why you can get with questions with that.
Well, it would be, we'd have to, whatever we decided, or whatever came up, we'd have to get that clear in code, so that we knew what was going on. I would think that some of these other places, that have experience already with tiny homes, if we were to talk to some of the managers and things, they probably could give a pretty good rundown on what kind of things they experience based on their type of home or their particular, property.
I don't have exact statistics. I know that a majority of the tenants of tiny homes are single, retired women.
Okay,
Just letting you know that that is the highest percentage of people who live in tiny homes are single, retired women, and then retirees or young couples are the next.
and, okay, and wouldn't you also say, though, that if you went to an apartment building or an apartment complex, that you would experience the same sort of numbers? The younger people are living in apartments, and younger people are, you know, and older folks, retirees, might be living in apartments if they've downsized?
No, I wouldn't. I would consider a lot of families to be in apartments.
Well, I would say they were there, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in tiny homes, you're not gonna have, there's almost none with kids, because there's just not the space.
That's a good point.
There's just not the space. And so you're not, you know, 'cause I know that one of the arguments in the past when I was dealing with this in Heber was that, a realtor had brought up about property taxes and how, that if, you know, if it's a family with 5 kids and they're not having to pay property taxes, but their kids go to the school, and it's like, no, you're not gonna have, it's not physically possible to have 5 kids and a family, you know, living in one of these units. It's just, but, and that's not typically, I don't know of, in all of my watching, 'cause I watch YouTube while I'm working, I'm not seeing family.
That's what happened to that dog.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry about that miscut on the, got excited about the tiny homes.
Yeah.
What I would like to do and encourage is that there is a documentary, put out by Tiny Expeditions that really talks about the, history of tiny homes on wheels, as well as, the process and, HUD's view on it, and how they have really thought that this could be an avenue, not a solution, an avenue to help with affordable, housing. So if you guys don't mind, I will email that link, and it's about an hour and a half. It's a movie, but it's a documentary, and I think it kind of helps, show the type of people and why they want to live this way. So I will email that to everybody in our little group email that we have.
Okay, just so for the people that aren't here that might not watch that, and they might see that email pop up before they try and get caught up on things, just tell them what it is, and tell them that same warning that that's an hour and a half, so they might be prepared for that. You know, I open my email, if it's an hour and a half, it's going in the trash. I presume we would stick between the, I don't know if you'd say tiny home industry standards for size? 50 to 400 square feet?
Yeah, is that what you're, yeah, that's what, basically, with the definitions that I had printed off before, tiny home on a foundation is less than 1,000 square feet, so that would be a permanent, like an ADU, something like that, that's a permanent structure.
Sorry, say that again.
Tiny home, or a small home on a foundation, so it's a permanent structure,
Oh,
is less than 1,000 square feet.
okay.
And then a tiny house on wheels is up to 400 square feet. Tiny homes on wheels cannot be larger than 400 square feet. They just physically can't.
Huh. So, that's interesting for the, tiny homes on foundations. I owned a home here in town that was 900 square feet.
Well,
It didn't
My
cost,
first home
I
was
didn't.
1,100
Yeah.
well,
That was pretty big for a tiny home.
well, what I'm saying
I
is,
had a family of 4 in it.
well, what I'm saying is that just definition-wise, especially with our code, unless you're in R3, you can't build less than 1,000 square feet.
Right.
So that's kind of where that number comes from.
Well, that'd be something to think about, because that's really a second house. I mean, I
Yeah,
had
that's-
people that would have been
1,000 square feet.
happy to rent that with 2 or 3 kids.
Yeah,
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 And-
absolutely.
and I would agree that water rights on something that, you know, is larger than 400 square feet and up to 1,000, that I could see where water rights would be a concern. But,
Right, well, if you have that much room that you can put in an accessory dwelling,
mhm,
that's 1,000 square feet, that's gonna be a pretty big lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a whole thing, code that's written, for something that's on a permanent foundation for a accessory dwelling unit. Talking about off-street parking, yeah, that's in,
Vague, Heber.
yeah, in there, on the
So,
third page.
yeah, what's the code number for that?
1868-611.
Thank you.
And that is just specifically their code on, and they changed it. They used to have a minimum, square footage of 300 square feet, but they have now reduced it to no minimum size. But they do have code for how large it can be.
No minimum size.
Nope, they used to have 300, but because of all of my berating, they removed the minimum.
Wow. That gets,
Well, you have to have a living dwelling unit, you have to, especially with the code that they have written, yeah, you have to, yeah. You're gonna have to have a bathroom, you're gonna have to, so that you have a minimum on your bathroom size that you can,
right.
you know, so it's gonna have per se a minimum square
Yeah.
footage, but
And just out of curiosity, why would you not want a minimum size in code?
well, I was trying to get them to reduce it, because I was trying to get them to change a lot of times with tiny homes on wheels, it's easier to get it to have a city accept them when they already have an ADU code. And so it was just like, okay, we can comply with all the ADU codes, but can we, one, reduce the minimum square footage, because not all tiny homes are 300 square feet, some of them are 225. And permit them on wheels. And that's where I was trying to go, because I was trying to stay there since I had a business. I didn't want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And, they came to resolutions, after a year and a half, and I had thrown in the towel, because I couldn't afford a home there, and you guys got me.
Just-
Permanent foundation, they're both the same thing. We don't have code, I don't think.
Well, I don't know what the definition for a casita is. I mean, I guess if you have an accessory dwelling unit beyond the house, you can call it a casita. I think that's just a
Mhm.
name. I mean,
Yeah.
what else would it be?
And it might be, I don't know what size the property is. If it's like a half acre, it might not have really been a concern, 'cause minimum is a quarter. So I don't know. Mm.
I'm looking it up right now.
Washington County has, different code, and they actually permit, and don't have a minimum square footage for building anything.
Who was that?
Washington County?
So I'm looking at something here that says Washington County, says under, that's weird. Under 300 feet of square footage is the minimum requirement in Washington County.
Oh, did my
Permissible-
typing?
It is permissible to construct tiny dwellings on foundation in your residence, so long as you connect them to utilities. That I don't understand that.
Tiny houses in Utah, okay, I know, this was a while. This came from tinyhouse.com. And I don't know if it's their wording, or I think I just copied and pasted. I don't think it was my wording. But I don't know if you can, I have the Washington County's ordinance number if you wanted to look it up.
Yeah, that might be interesting. But it's county, right, not...
It's county.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's county, it's not. Thank you. Washington County Ordinance 2016 dash 1069. I don't know how their stuff is organized.
Chapter 16.
1069.
Scroll over a little, I'm sorry, you're at 19.
well,
No.
it's chapter 10, go up to 69.
Yeah, maybe look at.
Oh.
Well, their codes may have been updated to, what the legislation passed last year. They passed internal,
Right.
so, can you, put in 1069 dash, the letter O? Just, no dash in between 10 and 69, 1069 dash O. Huh. Ordinance 2016 dash. Yeah, all of those. That's what this says.
Oh, yeah, it was there, right? Did you find the one? I saw it on that last page when we did that search. I saw it in the they all say that.
Yeah, they all say it. terms defined.
So 10.8.
PDR, plan development.
PDR, residential. That's all we got is those 6 returns.
Or term. Can you click on that terms defined and see if maybe they have, what their definition, accessory dwelling unit?
Without habitable space.
That's an accessory building, what do they have? No, they don't have,
Oh, they have accessory building, okay.
but not accessory dwelling unit. Maybe it's under dwelling unit. Accessory.
Well, we might be able to just do a search on accessory dwelling unit and see what we come up with.
That first top one looks like.
So they address parking
Yeah.
in number 3.
Mhm.
And they, looks like number 4 addresses, one's owner occupied.
Yeah, either the accessory, the owner needs to live in one of the 2 units.
They address, so there's one of my concerns, is number 5,
Mhm.
where accessory dwelling units are turned into, short-term
Airbnbs
rentals,
and,
things like that. That, to me, is a game changer.
yeah.
You know, you get a couple neighbors have one of those, and you have a different living experience.
Well, and also, I think a lot of the housing crisis is a factor, one of the factors is Airbnb and VRBOs, because companies, not necessarily individuals, but companies, you know, are buying up homes, and it's depleting what's available for people to purchase and rent, and
Yeah.
so I would agree that I wouldn't permit short-term rentals.
Huh. So number 6 talks about approval, other things, but approval is required from all utility and service providers and the building official, so that kinda makes sense.
Well, I think that we have code that says that if the
Yeah.
structure is over a certain size, it has to be approved.
Well, any accessory dwelling unit pretty much has to be approved, but I'm looking at the utilities and stuff is interesting. So they do treat it like a residence. Can we scroll some on that a little bit?
Number 1 addresses, the number of units that they
Yeah.
allow on
Mhm.
those
It
particular
would be,
parcels. And if there's if there's already a family dwelling, then you can only have one, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting there, I kinda skipped over that, I saw it and I skipped over that, mainly because I went, oh, that's the county, and they're talking about 5-acre parcels.
Right.
And I'm going,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't have that to deal with.
no, it
too
said
much.
zoned less than 5 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it goes on to say if you have more than 5 acres.
Oh, did it? Okay.
No, they wouldn't let, did it say more than 4, I don't know, it's gone.
Again, I look at the maximum size, they're talking about 1,500 square feet.
Oh, that's like bigger than a lot of homes in
Yeah.
Parowan.
Yeah, I
There's a home on Pioneer Avenue right now for sale that's like 437 square feet.
really, wow.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is,
Permanent foundation for 285,000, it's all yours.
yeah, and you said that that was 400 square feet?
Like 437 square feet.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
teeny.
bigger. Designate to 1/2 acre minimum lot size. So that 1,500 square foot, is on 1/2 acre minimum. So that would not, 1,500 maximum would not be compliant on a lot of our lots.
1,500.
But that is a guideline as to,
Mhm.
you can make a maximum size.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this in general to see
Yeah.
what kind of things they address in that code.
It's obviously in the county.
Which number or
Oh,
letter are
that's
you
for an
looking at?
internal.
Mhm.
Does state law regulate the size of an internal
Yes.
ADU? Really?
I believe so.
So if I have a basement and I say I wanna call it an internal ADU and rent it, and it's some size already, it might exceed the state code?
Put up a faux wall to make it.
I hate it when you read.
Which one are you looking at, just so I can read it?
No, I'm kidding.
D? B, oh, D, there.
It may include the entire basement.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It may.
Uh-huh. The exterior, here we go. So we were talking earlier about whether you can dictate the architectural style and
Mhm.
so on, so 3A, 1, 2, 3 addresses that and kinda says it's gotta conform to the style of the,
Licensed
yeah, probably the primary.
Mhm.
Huh.
And that would definitely be a permanent structure that they're referring to.
Oh, well, actually, this is kind of a nice option if you were gonna have that. The exterior of the ADU shall either conform to the single-family dwelling in architectural style and material on all sides of the building and roof, or be licensed by a licensed architect in a manner that gives the appearance of a barn or other similarly styled agricultural outbuilding, or be designed by a licensed architect in a manner that provides the architectural features of historic buildings from the general area.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
let's send Keith over there tomorrow to take a look at that.
Making more friends.
Mhm. Does our code have, any code, what am I trying to ask?
It's still gotta be in a way that it can connect to sewer,
Right.
which is a huge hindrance.
See, without knowing the
Understand.
specifics about that, I mean, actually walking that property, you don't know if it was put in on the sly. No. Yeah.
Yeah,
They do.
they do. They're cute little things. Insulate them. I believe, at least according to there is code that says that, like a lot of those sheds, yeah, you could put in a platform and you could have a sleeping space up there, but it's not, code approved because there's not an egress window for a fire escape.
Oh, I've seen them where they've just cut windows and stick them in them, like an accessory unit, they call it a mother's quarter, they buy one of those sheds, they just get big windows, they made a little kitchen, they've like totally turned it into a little,
But they put in a window
Yeah.
that is a fire escape.
yeah.
Yeah, the challenge with all that becomes enforcement. So the city has
Yeah.
code that would tell,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
someone said you can do that, but if somebody goes and does it,
Yeah, then,
nobody says anything, nobody does anything, all of a
Yeah,
sudden
then
now
what-
you've got.
So, don't we have, don't you have to have like a building permit or something to be able to put in a structure? What are our codes on that?
Yeah, there's a minimum square foot.
200 for a shed.
200, and you need a building permit. So, I mean, is there then an inspection? So upon inspection, wouldn't there be, and what about putting in sewer? That, you can't just do that yourself, right? That's gotta be done. Mhm.
yeah,
Right, right. I mean, that's been going on for years and years and years. I don't know if
I
that,
mean-
that's gonna ever change,
Yeah.
but, yeah. The other.
Well,
thing
and the thing is that something like that, I mean, could it be fine, but they have to be compliant? And then, do we have a permit that they, you know, do they have to have a business license because it's a rental? You know, that's one of the things that they've talked about when it comes to short-term rentals. It,
No.
no, that's lots, it's a debate
well,
now.
that's where definitions,
No.
no, that's where, that you're just proving the point that you have to have definitions of what is what. Because otherwise, there is confusion and,
Well, you get things that aren't allowed, right? You can get a building inspection, you can go build a garage, somebody's already said that. And, you know, you put a spot in the floor where your sewer's already gonna be there, but it's cemented over, and as soon as you get your inspection, you can go in with a hammer and pop out the concrete plug and run a toilet in there, and you've got water, and, you know, nobody's gonna come back and ever check on that. Now, where you can run into a rub is when you get ready to sell the house. So it's somewhere down the line when somebody comes in and looks and goes, wow, do you get a building permit for this? 'Cause it says this house is only, you know, 900 square feet, and you've got a 2,000 square foot ADU, well, that'd be an exaggeration, a 900 square foot ADU in the back that looked like a garage and was built as a garage, and all of a sudden it's a residence. So where's the electrical inspections and, yeah,
Mhm.
the sewer hookups and all those kinds of things? But that's not necessarily a legal thing, it just means that some buyer might walk away.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that happens a lot more than you think, and the buyers just usually say, oh, it's not permitted, it's okay, I'm buying it, I know what I'm going into, but
Yeah.
nothing happens.
All right.
The lender's super picky.
Yeah, yeah. Any other comments about tiny homes at this point? So, my suggestion is that we table this discussion at this point, and we reopen a discussion of a similar nature, or the same, with the full body, and go through and get comments, and then let's see what we've got. Take a good look at the minutes, you know, bring the minutes in, highlight your minutes, and look at all these points. I think Judy probably captured them. And let's use that as a jumping off point in the next discussion, and then if anybody wants to bring in other material, if you've got something you wanna bring,
okay.
get it to Judy and let us know, and just, anyway, yeah.
And I will send out the link, for that documentary. and I would just hope that, you know, even if you have to break it up, to, you know, watch that as well, and,
Well, I would like to, if
Yeah.
I get it, or way before.
yeah, I'll send it,
Meeting.
I started to look, but I was then not participating or listening, so I stopped. After the meeting's over, I will locate that link and send it to everybody.
Okay. We're gonna move into member reports. Jamie, you wanna
Have
tell us about your
nothing.
vacation?
You want me to hear about all my vacations? I
No.
haven't been here?
Well, I do, but not now.
Yeah, I've got nothing.
Jamie, or I mean Heather,
Oh, no, I don't have anything.
David?
No, I just have a question. Am I on that thread where you're sending out those?
It's whatever Judy and everybody sends for the minutes and stuff.
Okay.
So I was just gonna, like, the minutes and the agenda that was
Okay.
sent to us for this meeting, I was just gonna reply to all on that,
Okay.
so.
As long as I can get it.
Keith? Oh, I'm sorry, Dave, were you?
No, I'm fine. I'm just gonna say I may want to get one of these tiny homes put on the mountain.
Oh, it's called a sheep shed.
Yes.
Keith?
Very fitting for this valley. Dan wanted me to bring up that we're meeting with Jones and DeMille next week, to start a new traffic survey, for the purpose of redoing the traffic master plan, or at least taking another look at it to see if it still fits the needs and the future use.
Did we ever get results from the UDOT,
I don't have that answer, Dan might,
okay,
I should say,
for Center and Main and
yeah.
Maverick? Okay.
So Keith, one of the things I'd like to ask you, and maybe it's Judy, you guys can both weigh in on this. I'd like to get a report on how many building permits have been issued in the last, let's just say 2 years, by year. So, how many were issued in 2022-ish, and how many have been issued in 2023?
Yeah.
I think just new homes. I don't want all the accessory dwelling units and fences and, you know, things like that. Really just looking to get something, and I know that Dan has with that county's, I don't remember now even what they call it, my building inspector or something.
Yeah, but I think we're still just kind of side door accessing that, but I can get these numbers for
But
you.
I was
Can-
with. Okay, well, if we could ask him for a report. I know, I was with Dan, within 5 minutes, he had the report, he was the one that showed them how to do it. And, but I think it's time that we just have that number handy.
Okay.
As a group, it'd be valuable to the council, and it's just valuable to know as we move forward with things.
Can we add 2021, since we're only halfway through 2023?
So, yes,
Instead of just having 1 year, have
you bet,
2 full years of...
2 full years and a year to date.
I had another question, shoot.
Would it be worth going back just a little farther to maybe, some pre-COVID years?
Sure, I'll take 10 years if you want.
We'll take it out.
I was just trying to not
I'm
get
trying to
too,
Yes,
you know.
add more work?
add my work. I
Um,
just wanna see, maybe, and the commission does too, wants to see real numbers, 'cause I just,
Yeah, I think
and
that's a
I'm
great
sure
idea.
you're sure that, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
we've experienced
be
some of
awesome.
that.
Absolutely, yeah, the numbers are gonna be definitely lower during the COVID years.
thank you, and if we can't have it by next meeting, just give us a heads up on when they think it'll be available,
You will.
so that we keep it on the action list and get it. Anything else? Anybody? Judy, do you have anything?
Oh, and I don't know that this needs to come before the full meeting. I'll still bring it up because Dan said bring it up. We've had a request come in recently about an individual who desires to land his helicopter. He's planning to buy a lot, out in Heritage Hills, and he's wondering how the city feels about him landing his helicopter on his property. Obviously, as a pilot, he knows he can.
He's
Okay.
he's
FAA
capable.
wise, he can. His question is more,
Would we
Pleasant
like
City
that or not?
really got a feel for it. And where he lives now, he's run into the same problem. He says, he takes his neighbors and the kids up, once a year and gives them a ride, and that kind of quiets things down and makes everybody happier. But
Yeah.
Tell him that if he will permit it if he has any single sons that need a dog groomer in their life. Oh my gosh, to be able to not only afford a home but a helicopter, my gosh.
Well, so just the first thought to my mind is those, around any aircraft, helicopters, fixed-winged or anything, there are a lot of FAA rules and regulations about where you can fly and where you
Right.
can't fly. Now, I know there's a helipad over there that they use for, fire helicopters and so on, but or was there, I don't know if it's still there. But that we just need to look into that quite a bit deeper than.
yeah, I know he's called twice now, so he is hopeful for an answer, and I, as you can expect, did not have a good one for him.
Yeah,
You tell him the airport isn't that far?
Yeah, say Parowan is only a couple of miles big.
Yeah, apparently there's.
Yeah.
And we don't have traffic, just don't go when school gets out, and you shouldn't have any problems.
Um, does anybody wanna take the task of going down and just talking to the airport manager and just asking them their general thoughts about the flyability over
Of course, I absolutely will.
residential? Do you wanna do that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's super nice. If you don't want to, I know him really well. I sold him his house.
Oh, okay. Because I think you'll get the most insight from that. And
Sure.
say, they do it all the time, and
Just in speaking with the gentleman, FAA rules wise, he knows he can do it, it said. Now
He's
it's
just,
a matter of
yeah,
how does-
trying to be a
is his
friendly neighbor.
temperature on it.
well, under his interpretation of the FAA rules as to what he thinks he's doing, and what does that do to other people that might wanna build in that area?
Sure.
And the height of their houses and different things like that. I think there's a lot to it. And then is he gonna start storing fuel over there so he can refuel at his house or at the helipad? And, there's a lot to all that.
They do.
I bet they didn't think about helicopters.
I wouldn't.
I was gonna say, yep, they do have CCNRs.
Yeah.
What's that?
The CCNRs, the rules for the community.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sure I've never seen one with helicopters included.
Well,
so. That would be a first if it was in there. I'd be like, what?
yeah, so here's what space you could end up in and something like that. So the CCNRs might end up being the governing document, and they might not talk about aircraft or helicopters specifically, but they may talk about things that they consider nuisances or noise hazards.
Yeah.
Or other hazards to the area that they,
Yeah.
exclude somehow. I think Justin wrote those, by the way, so. Anyway. All right, if, anything else? Thank you all. I'd accept, one final motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn for the evening.
I second it.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. We're done. Thanks. See you, Ron.